We continue to update you with information in relation to the management of the COVID-19 pandemic here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. The pandemic is not over, as you can see from the news and all over the world, that there are still surges with respect to the virus. There's a new variant out that is spreading very rapidly. And so the need for us to keep informed and the need for us to adhere to the COVID-19 measures put in place for our safety and protection are of paramount importance. And so thank you very much for being with us. Today I want to invite first to speak to us Dr. Cameron Wilkinson. He is the Medical Chief of Staff at the Joseph N. France General Hospital and a member of the COVID-19 Task Force.
Thank you very much, Lesroy. There's an article that I saw called "With Rights Come Responsibilities: How Coronavirus is a Pandemic of Hypocrisy" by Luke Zafir from the University of Queensland. It was written or published August 19, 2020. And I thought I would share some of this in my presentation today, as what the author had to say is pertinent to what is going on here. And I have quoted several sections from the article in my presentation, but you can find the full original article online. He started out by saying, what is hypocrisy? Hypocrisy is when we are inconsistent in our morality. We commonly refer to it as saying one thing and doing another. Some of us wear a mask and it's uncomfortable, but we tolerate it because there's a pandemic and we all have to do our part to keep everyone safe, except for that one person who puts on a scene, yelling about their rights to go unmasked, to be able to breathe, to be free of oppression. Everyone else can wear a mask if they choose, but not you, because you have rights and want to be free. We go out and get vaccinated to protect ourselves and those around us because the vaccine significantly reduces our risk of catching and spreading the most deadly virus that has so far killed over 5.24 million people in just under 2 years. Everyone else can choose to get vaccinated, but not you. Yet you want to move about normally as if the pandemic is over and put other people's life at risk because of your choice not to get vaccinated. You may be an anti-masker or an anti-vaxxer, and I do believe that that is your right. But in refusing to wear a mask in public, and by refusing to be vaccinated but wanting to freely mingle with others and put them at risk of getting infected, getting severely ill and dying, you are denying other people the right to live in security. You cannot continue to create loopholes in the application of the rules to suit you, which do not gel with real-world settings in this pandemic. If most of us shared that view, we will not be nearing the 80% threshold of adult population immunity coverage here in the Federation and be soon seeing a relaxation of some of the measures we put in place. We all need to do the right thing if we are going to continue to successfully fight this virus, and that is by reaching the highest threshold of population immunity, which means we all have to play our part by going out and getting vaccinated. When we fail to do the right thing, we may hurt other people or even make them sick or lose their lives. 2, if we believe in a principle but don't apply it ourselves, that principle is essentially meaningless. On the road to the 80% threshold, we had to fight a lot of misinformation and misleading information spread by some who did not use that same misinformation for themselves and theirs. Making a decision to get vaccinated is based on correct scientific information, and if the information given is not clear and accurate, the wrong decision can be made by those dependent on us for credible information. If you know that the vaccines are safe and effective, but give people the wrong information or an unclear message that is misleading, then it continues to make our job difficult, because that will contribute to vaccine hesitancy. You cannot tell someone to wait for an alternative vaccine when you and your loved ones were first in line for the AstraZeneca or the Pfizer. You cannot now tell someone not to get the extra protection offered by the booster when you and yours are lining up for the booster, which we know will offer extra protection. This is dangerous. Third point, one also cannot continue to ignore the responsibility that comes with every right. You want the right to live, then you have a responsibility to the rights of others to live. You cannot endanger the lives of others with your decision. You cannot be, for example, an essential worker and choose not to get vaccinated and leave yourself vulnerable to every single variant that arises, thereby making yourself a vehicle for transportation and spread of the deadly virus and endanger the lives of those who depend on you for an essential service. Every essential worker should be vaccinated. You want to use a public space. You have a responsibility to share that space with others without endangering their life. To believe you have a right without a corresponding responsibility is dangerous, a double standard where you've likely considered the abstract principle but not the specific situation. We may not all agree on the policies and procedures put in place to contain the virus, but right now we can't afford to ignore evidence and truth. Take public goods. These are shared spaces and qualities we all benefit from: education, clean air and water, health, and the environment. Without the public good of health, we get sick, the economy shuts down, we lose loved ones to disease. The quality of life drops dramatically without good public health. We should all benefit from good public health, and equally so, should all be willing to help to maintain it. We all want the benefits of us getting to a high threshold of population immunity, and should all contribute to us getting there, because there is no threshold where we stop the vaccination program and just automatically get back to normal. The science now tells us there is no herd immunity threshold that we reach and then magically switch back to normal. The virus is relentless in its attack, and we must be relentless in the fight to protect ourselves. The more people who come forward to be vaccinated, and the closer we tend towards 100% vaccination coverage, the safer we will be. If everyone else, like you, chose not to get vaccinated, we will still be going through a wave of infection with mounting cases and death. We may say that we have a right not to wear a mask in public and a right of choice not to get vaccinated, and that right may exist. However, if you think public health is a good thing, but you aren't willing to take a basic measure of responsibility for it, like wearing a mask in public or getting vaccinated, it makes the disaster worse for everyone else. Lastly, one of the best ways to avoid this double standard is to make our own moral principle far more specific. Put the abstract principle into context. Say your principles are: 1, I have a right to go out in public without a mask, or 2, I have a right not to be vaccinated. These principles are not too contentious, but vague enough to be abused. Applying context to those principles will look like this: I have a right to go out in public without a mask, even when I'm possibly an asymptomatic carrier of the worst disease to hit my country in a century and spread the virus to everyone I come in contact with. Or, I have a right not to be vaccinated and possibly get infected and go to school and mingle with all the children entrusted to my care as a teacher who cannot be vaccinated and infect them, and have them take the virus home and infect others in their family, including the very young and the very old and frail, and put their life at risk. You see, it is a lot harder to defend beliefs like those when we make them specific instead of speaking in the abstract. The truth is, the virus has been spreading because of beliefs like this and actions like these. We don't have to share common ethics from person to person, but we do have to be consistent with ourselves. We also cannot continue to ignore scientific evidence, truth, and facts. The vaccines are safe and effective. They offer significant protection against severe disease, hospitalization, and death. They significantly reduce your risk of catching and spreading this deadly virus. Let us work together to end this pandemic. The non-pharmaceuticals are important, but vaccination is key. Go out and get protected from this deadly virus and its variants by getting your first shot or your second shot. Go out and get extra protection by getting your booster so that we can all enjoy shared spaces without putting others at risk and open up the country and the economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilkinson, for your presentation. I now invite Superintendent Cromwell Henry to bring us the update on the COVID-19 regulations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. A pleasant good afternoon to all. Now, before I get into my presentation, I just want to make a statement with regards to a copy of an email that has been making the rounds that was sent to Carambola with regards to their brunch. Now, the task force has deemed that brunch is a normal restaurant activity and therefore not considered an event. And so a restaurant that has permission for a brunch are not required to have vaccinated patrons only, provided, however, that they're only permitted to have sit-down dining with maybe entertainment, music in the background. Anything outside of that would be a violation of the regulations and will be dealt with accordingly. So events are considered, are not, a brunch is not considered an event. It is a normal restaurant operation, just like dinner, just like lunch. It is just a cross between breakfast and lunch. And so if a restaurant is having a brunch on their premises and they have a DJ for music entertainment, that is fine. Not required to have vaccinated patrons, but anything outside of that, any partying after the brunch or at any point during the brunch would be considered a violation and would be dealt with appropriately. So we just want to clear the air on that. It is not a free-for-all where you could have events and mix. The regulation is clear, and my presentation would bring out what the regulation says about events and who can attend. The new regulations have been published and will remain in effect until December the 16th. These new regulations contain significant changes affecting several sectors: sports, entertainment, travel, etc. I will highlight some of the changes here today. Permission is no longer required for funerals and weddings. Regulation 9.1 prescribes a person may attend a wedding, and all persons except the bride and groom shall adhere to safety protocols and social and distancing protocols. Likewise, a person may attend a funeral, and like weddings, all persons shall adhere to social and physical distancing protocols. So you no longer are required to apply for permission to have a wedding or a funeral. Just have your funeral or wedding and comply, adhere to all the protocols. However, the reception is something different. It's a social activity, and that would require permission. A person or organization may host an entertainment event, social event, or other activity in a building, club, or stadium, or other similar location. Events or social activities with more than 25 patrons are required to apply to the Commissioner of Police at www.police.kn for permission to host the event. I would repeat that. Events or social activities with more than 25 patrons are required to apply to the Commissioner of Police at www.police.kn for permission to host the event. Where permission is granted to a person to host an entertainment event, all patrons shall be required to produce proof of full vaccination by presenting their COVID-19 vaccination record or other valid proof of vaccination authorized by the Ministry of Health before entry into the event. The total number of persons that may be permitted to attend inside the building or stadium is a maximum of 75% capacity, with one person for every 6 square feet. All persons shall adhere to social distancing and physical distancing protocols. The management shall ensure that an accurate record of all persons in attendance at the event is kept, including their name, address, telephone number, and the patient number on the COVID-19 vaccination card. The full capacity of the building or stadium shall be posted on the entrance or entrances, and the approval from the Commissioner of Police shall state the number of patrons allowed at the event. I repeat that. The full capacity of the building or stadium shall be posted on the entrance or entrances, and the approval from the Commissioner of Police shall state the maximum number of persons allowed to attend an entertainment event. All children who are under the age of 17 who are not eligible for vaccination shall be treated as having the same vaccination status as their parents or guardians. There are separate protocols for bars. Regulation 9.5 states as follows: a bar may be opened for the sale of liquor, and all persons shall adhere to the social and physical distancing protocols as well as hygiene protocols. Spacing between tables shall allow for a maximum of 6 feet between persons, and all persons, including the staff, shall wear face masks covering their nose and mouth except when eating or drinking. Live musical or other entertainment shall adhere to safety protocols and social and physical distancing protocols. This simply means that the protocols for bars are different to the protocols for events. The bars are expected to comply with the social and physical distancing protocols, that is 6 feet between persons, and while we have a different number for events which are hosting persons who are fully vaccinated. I just want to remind us all that the COVID-19 prevention protocols are still in effect and must be adhered to. The easing of some restrictions are mostly due to a high vaccination rate, and so we encourage those of you who are still not vaccinated to get vaccinated to protect yourself as we gradually remove restrictions. Remember to continue to wear your masks, maintain physical and social distance when in public, and sanitize frequently. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Henry. I now invite our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Laws, to present us with the Health Emergency Operations Committee Situation Report for today. Dr. Laws.
Thank you, Lesroy, and a pleasant good afternoon to everyone. This afternoon, as per usual, I'll share with you the HEOC situation report. Okay, so over this past week, we've only identified 5 newly diagnosed cases of COVID-19 as compared to the previous week when we identified 7. At present, we do not have any hospital admissions. The recoveries for this week, 11, and no additional COVID-19 related deaths. So to date, the Federation have confirmed and reported a total of 2,791 confirmed cases of COVID-19, We continue to enjoy an excellent recovery rate with 2,753 recoveries to date, and at present we are only monitoring 10 active cases, 3 in Nevis and 7 on the island of St. Kitts. To date, we've only reported 28 COVID-19 related deaths. The related deaths, 86% of those who died were unvaccinated, and 68% were 60 years and over. And so again, today, I want to reach out to the older adults amongst us, those who are diagnosed with the chronic non-communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, kidney disease. If you are not already vaccinated, we want you to empower yourselves with the information about the vaccine and come on board and accept same, because there is a risk of there's a risk of Omicron being introduced into our society, and based on the evidence, it seems to be more transmissible. So we want you to utilize this window of opportunity and come on board and accept the vaccine. In terms of the 2,791 confirmed cases, 70% were not vaccinated or unvaccinated, and 6.9 or 7% partially vaccinated. So again, if you are unvaccinated, you are vulnerable. So we want you to come on board and protect yourselves. The vaccination program continues, and it has been successful. It has been a successful journey so far. In terms of the vaccination coverage of adults in our population, 80.6% covered with the first dose, 74.2% fully vaccinated. And in terms of our children, aged 12 to 17 years, 14.8% covered with the first dose and 12.4% fully vaccinated. So again, we want to reach out to parents, guardians of our children. We want you to help us to ensure that the school space is safe by consenting or providing consent for your child or ward to be vaccinated. This provides a disaggregation of the data between islands. So again, you would see in St. Kitts, 85.2% of the adults have received the first dose, and 77.6% have received the second dose or fully vaccinated. And you would see the figures for Nevis. But overall, in terms of the entire population, 53.2% of the total population fully vaccinated. We are going good, but we still have a long way to go in terms of reaching an adequate immunity threshold, given the fact that we have a new variant on the horizon and there's potential for more variants to circulate. The booster shot is available, and so we are reaching out to all those persons who are 18 years and over, those who have already received their primary vaccine series at least 6 months ago. You can come forward and receive the booster shot. We are given the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine as the booster shot. Okay, so in terms of the Delta variant, it is still the most prevalent variant globally. And so we already know the features of this variant. There's a potential for this variant to be introduced into our population. And so that's why we want persons who are not yet vaccinated to come on board to protect yourself against the Delta variant, which is pretty severe and highly contagious. The Omicron variant came on the scene in the last week of November. It is easily the most mutated variant so far, with a number of changes in the spike protein. Now, we have results from an in-depth laboratory study on the Omicron variant, And what they have said is that this variant is extremely slippery. It eludes a great deal of protection provided by disease-fighting antibodies. That means individuals who would have had COVID before, they can easily be reinfected, and persons who have been vaccinated, they may suffer breakthrough infections. However, the positive news is that the vaccines, the COVID-19 vaccines, still provide a level of protection against severe disease and hospitalization. And the booster shot is also very effective against Omicron variant. The Pfizer-BioNTech group says that its booster provides and offers significant protection against this variant. So in other words, if you just have 2 doses, it may not be sufficient, it may not prevent reinfection. However, the booster shot provides significant coverage. The Omicron variant of the SARS-CoV-2 virus appears to be less severe compared to the Delta variant in terms of the severity of disease it causes, but it seems to be more transmissible. And so this is just this is based on anecdotal evidence and some preliminary data coming out of South Africa and those countries who that are impacted by this variant so far. So it seems to be more transmissible, but the disease cause seems to be less severe. Again, this is preliminary information. We won't be able to confirm this information for another month or so, because research is ongoing regarding this variant. In terms of its impact on countermeasures like the tests, based on the information so far, the RT-PCR tests continue to detect infection. However, they are still working on the other tests, the menu, the expanding menu, rapid antigen tests. They are conducting tests to find out if they can how effective they are in picking up infection by the Omicron variant. In terms of treatment, corticosteroids still remains effective. Again, studies are ongoing regarding the other treatment modalities. I just want to bring to your attention, there are some antivirals on the horizon. So Merck and Ridgeback Biotherapeutics, they have this new antiviral drug, molnupiravir, which reduces the risk of hospitalization and death by as much as 30% if the patient receives this drug within 5 days of onset of symptoms. There's another antiviral pill developed by Pfizer. It's called Paxlovin. It may perform even better than the molnupiravir in that it has shown that this drug is 85% effective when taken within 5 days of the onset of symptoms. And so this is positive news. 2 antiviral or 2 new COVID pills on the horizon. They are going through the approval process for emergency use authorization. In terms of the Omicron variant, the WHO recommends that territories like ourselves, we need to increase our public health, medical health system capacity. We need to continue the COVID-19 prevention and control measures, and we need to enhance surveillance, particularly border surveillance, and without saying, we need to improve, or the world, COVAX and the international agencies need to improve equitable or ensure equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines across the globe. We are not safe until everyone is safe. And so again, I can't end without reminding you of the COVID-19 protective measures. So if you are not yet on board in terms of accepting the vaccine, please empower yourselves with the necessary information. Look at your vulnerability and accept the vaccine. The wearing of the face mask, very important. maintaining adequate hand hygiene, particularly at this time, Christmas time, when you have a lot of tourists around, foreigners coming in from overseas. Protect yourselves by simply wearing your face mask, hand sanitizing, maintaining a safe distance. And if you are experiencing any of the COVID-19-like symptoms, please stay at home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Laws. I now invite Mr. Abdias Samuel, the chair of the COVID-19 National Task Force and NDC at NEMA, to give us his presentation. Mr. Samuel.
All right. Pleasant good afternoon to all. Pleasant good afternoon to you, Mr. Williams, and to everyone watching us and listening to us via the various means. First, I want to start this briefing by thanking all my colleagues and friends and those who have supported the work of the National COVID-19 Task Force for the past 24 months, or even for 2021 in particular. We have seen the highs, we have seen the lows, and yet the team remains committed, and they are doing their best to keep you safe here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and also for visiting guests. Let me just highlight a few things that the task force has been working on for the past week. The task force would have conducted some walkthroughs at the RLB International Airport, and very shortly you are going to experience a faster processing process at the airport. What do I mean by that? So we are actually increasing the technology. So when you enter into the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, you are now going to use your barcode that is given on the approval letters to simply scan and go. So it's about a scan and go. And if the system detects any challenges with you, then you will be taken for a secondary screening, and that's at the Port Health area. So when you enter the Welcome Center, you're going to simply scan your barcode. Once the system is fine, you just proceed to immigration and customs, and then from there on, you will get your transportation. At immigration, the Chief Immigration Officer, Ms. Moslin Hughes, has taken the proactive approach after consultation with the task force to increase the immigration officers that will be processing inbound passengers. So you will see from 5 booths being operated to 10 booths being operated. So you should see those implementations there shortly. At customs, we are still in some discussions with the airlines in terms of moving the baggages a little more faster so that there is no bottleneck at customs, as the bottlenecks are created at customs or in the baggage hall area by the late arrivals of the bags that are taken off the aircraft and brought for the passengers to receive their luggages. So once these processes are smooth out, then you're going to see a faster processing process at the airport. So again, let me just repeat, it's going to be swipe and go. Once the system do not pick you up as a person of interest, you just continue. When I say a person of interest, we are, a secondary check is required to just verify some of the documentations uploaded. And then after that, you go through immigration. You will have more immigration officers to process you. And then at customs, the luggages, once your luggages reach on time, you will also have that commodity to moving fast. And the outside, you will see once the land and go is implemented, you will have that access to basically get in your own vehicle, have somebody pick you up, or you can get a taxi, COVID-19 certified taxi, to move you from the RLB International Airport. And then customs will also be charged in terms of identifying some key persons that may require some additional type of assistance for them to be able to be processed at that final stage. So we are doing some significant improvement to enhance the experience of arriving at the RLB International Airport, and same will be mirrored on Nevis. I also want to highlight that the task force would have also engaged the pilots that fly over into Nevis. In particular, we had representation from Cape Air and Air Sunshine. I think I have them right, Cape Air and Sunshine. And we were able to have some great discussions based on the protocols and policies that exist on St. Kitts and Nevis. And they also were able to share some of the practices for pilots, their pilots, and we were able to, have some considerations going forward. So they will be making some proposals to see where we can actually draw the line in the middle between all of us, so that we can reach a compromise so that Cape Air can begin their flights to Nevis as well as Air Sunshine. The task force was also engaged by the Ross University. Ross University would have made a presentation as they prepare for the arrival of their new class in January, I think it is. And we were able to have some very good discussions. As you know, this is a community that is significant. We also learned of their vaccination program and progress that they have been making within their community as well as within their staff. So that was very indicative of the progress they are making to ensure that they played a role in helping us to get out of this pandemic. And we were very happy with their presentation, and we are hopeful that some of the recommendations that are up for consideration will have favorable outcomes. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a festive season, and we know we are celebrating Carnival the 50th Carnival celebration, and we are hopeful that within the context of COVID-19, that persons can exercise the necessary safety precautions to be able to enjoy themselves at this time. Yes, we know that there are some restrictive measures, even though, let me put it in a better way. There are some measures to help curb the potential for any outbreaks or for us to have any type of lockdown situation that will lead us into lockdowns, because we don't want to go back there. However, I am asking everyone to do their best, play their part. I echo the sentiments of Dr. Wilkinson. He has been the champion of vaccination. To do your best to continue to vaccinate. The numbers are increasing. We are doing well in the OECS. Hence the reason we are going to be taking some bold steps in reducing some of the restrictions that exist at this time. So please continue to do your best to help us get out of this pandemic. Let's turn this pandemic into an endemic for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we can only do so by continuing to vaccinate. We also had some very good discussions amongst ourselves in terms of how do we address the entertainment sector. As we are aware, the present regulation gives the entertainment sector a 75% capacity to host events. And we are asking the entertainers to exercise caution, follow the guidelines. You have our fullest support to carry out your activities. I think some of us, exclusive of me, love our entertainment. I mean, task force members are human beings just like you, and they want to also enjoy some of the festive season. But we want you to do so safely, follow the guidelines again, do your application through the police portal. I think it's police.can, correct, Superintendent Henry? To date, Superintendent Henry would have updated us that we have over 187 applications. And what we also want to do in order to enhance the carnival experience is to have entertainers work alongside with the carnival committee, the executive committee, in terms of hosting events. There's a Carnival Act, I'm understanding, and we are asking persons to familiarize themselves with it and also familiarize yourself with the COVID-19 protocols or the SRNOs, sorry, so that you could host these events safely. The task force, in no way, shape, or form is attempting to do anything or attempting to stop any type of events. Our job is to facilitate, but facilitate it in a safe manner. We also are appealing to all the entertainers and promoters to give yourself time by applying within a reasonable time period before you begin promoting your events. My understanding is that the authorities, the police, is seeking your cooperation in this regard, because we are seeing a lot of events being promoted, and most of these events are not approved. They have not been approved. Let me emphatically state that they have not been approved. And it poses a challenge, therefore, going forward in terms of giving you the fullest support if you continue with these practices. And equally so, we want you to continue that dialogue with the executive for the Carnival Committee. This is for the private promoters to continue to promote events. We want you to have these events. We welcome you having these events, but do so in a safe manner and also by following the guidelines and the SRNOs. At this time, I want to take the opportunity to commend an individual that did an excellent job in carrying out a festive activity, and that's no other than Abonati Liebert. Abonati came to the task force and he made a wonderful presentation. The team stuck through with their presentation and what they recommended, their proposal. As a matter of fact, we had to make little contribution to his proposal, his team proposal, sorry, and I must commend them for what they did. I think it was a good model to be followed, and we hope that persons can engage them, Mr. Abonati Liebert and Nevis, and learn from him and what he proposed in terms of hosting safe events in a COVID environment. So, Abonati, to you, thank you, my brother, and we hope that you can continue such good work over Nevis in terms of entertainment within the context of a COVID-19 environment. Ladies and gentlemen, one of our members from the National COVID-19 Task Force would have informed us that, yes, officially, they will be demitting their office, I think, by the end of this month, and that person is no other than Ms. Raquel Brown. And I want to here publicly thank her for the contribution she has made within the tourism sector and to the National COVID-19 Task Force for the past 18 months or so. It has been a up and down relationship where we have had to meet halfway, we have had to make compromises in the best interest of building our tourism sector, making it a competitive one that is sustainable and maintainable, and one that will be the envy of the region. And I think she has done an excellent job as a CEO in actually taking us from one place to the next and enhancing our tourism product here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So to you, Raquel, whatever your endeavors may be, we want to wish you all the best. I will personally miss you. You gave me the most gray hairs on the team, and bald head too. You know, you expanded it a little bit, but it was all in good faith, and we are now seeing the rewards from your hard work and commitment and your battle for the tourism sector. You were passionate about what you did, and that passion really brought about a good product here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We wish you well. Take care of yourself, and all the best. Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel. That brings us to the question and answer segment. Our first question goes to Dr. Wilkinson. Dr. Wilkinson, I am reliably informed that a former chief medical officer was on a radio program questioning you advocating for taking the booster without local data to support it. What advice do you have for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis?
Thank you, Leslie. I will tell the people of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis to continue to ignore voices like that. When there were voices speaking about waiting for an alternative, you ignored those voices and you went forward for your vaccination, and that is why we were one of the first countries to reach the 40% population immunity that the World Health Organization had said countries should reach by the end of December. You continue to ignore those voices for us to get to the threshold of 80% or nearing that, so that we can continue to open up the country. And since we started the booster program about a week and a half ago, persons have been coming forward. Daily, we are reporting 50 and 60 persons coming forward, whereas to date, we have about 967 persons so far who have come forward to get the booster. We know that the scientific evidence has told us that after 6 months of being vaccinated, your immunity drops, and by getting a dose of the Pfizer vaccine after 2 doses of AstraZeneca, your level rises to about 93.1%. After your level starts to fall for the Pfizer, it rises again up to about 94%. And so the scientific evidence is there to show that the vaccines work. We don't do scientific investigations locally here. When you get stuck with a rusty nail, you rush to the hospital to get a tetanus booster. Nobody asks for local data to support that. We use the worldwide data. And so I'm happy that the people of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis have ignored those voices, and I want you to continue to do that as we move forward and open up our country.
Thank you. Our second question, is the Pfizer vaccine and the Pfizer booster vaccine 2 different drugs, or are they the same but different amounts? And has the batch of Pfizer vaccines we received already expired?
To be fully vaccinated, you need 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine given 21 days apart. When your immunity starts to wane, and the scientific evidence has shown that it can start to wane after 6 months, you need a booster shot. And the booster shot is the exact same dose, the exact same vaccine as the original 2 shots, but it's just given to boost your immune system. So there is no difference in the vaccine, there's no difference in the dosage, etc. And the vaccines that we have, they have not expired, no. We have said from the very beginning that we would not be using any expired vaccines, and anytime we get close to the vaccination date, we will let persons know. I'm happy that persons are coming forward in their numbers, and we believe that we'll be able to use all the vaccines we have, especially with the increased uptake of persons coming forward for the booster. And so if you know somebody out there who has gotten their vaccine more than 6 months ago, you encourage them to come forward to get their booster shot, because this is the only how we're going to protect ourselves from the current original virus and the variants. We must remember, as we said here several months ago, we cannot keep these variants out of the country. There's going to come a point in time when Delta is going to arrive. There's going to come a point in time when Omicron is going to arrive, but you'll be protected if you're vaccinated, and you'll be more protected if you have a booster shot.
The question of the Cuban vaccines has reemerged, but I'm not, I will ask, but I'm not aware that the World Health Organization has approved any Cuban vaccine. Do the authorities here recognize the Cuban vaccines? A friend of mine wishes to visit from Cuba. She has had her full 3-dose vaccine. Will she be required to quarantine for 1 or 9 days upon arrival?
Yeah, the Cuban vaccines have not yet been approved. They have not yet attained emergency use listing by the World Health Organization. And so if an inbound passenger is vaccinated with the Abdala, for example, that individual will be expected to go into quarantine for 9 days.
Thank you, Dr. Laws. Mr. Samuel, I note that Mr. Samuel indicated that incoming passengers may be picked up at airport by persons other than approved taxi drivers. Does that mean that the 24-hour quarantine will be removed?
So Williams, thank you very much for the question, and to the person who posted. What I said was, once the land and go is implemented, meaning that the cabinet approves for you to be able to enter the Federation with a negative RT-PCR test, being fully vaccinated, 14 days would have elapsed after your second dose of the vaccine. Then it means that once you are satisfied, all the border management agencies, you will be able to just go home without having to go in a COVID-19 certified taxi. You can have somebody pick you up. Yes, you can go into your own vehicle. Yes, you can actually take the services of a taxi. And yes, the 24 hours will be removed. The quarantine will be removed. And the testing will be removed, but we are not there as yet. When it's implemented, we will communicate, that will be communicated to you officially. So when that process is implemented, it's going to be a comprehensive approach where there will be no quarantine, no exit test from quarantine, and there will be no corridor of containment for the vaccinated inbound passenger. The unvaccinated passenger, I just want to make this clear, will still have to follow those protocols of going through the corridor of containment. So yes, once it's implemented, you will not see any 24-hour quarantine, no exit out of quarantine test, and yes, you can have someone pick you up. You can have someone pick you up at the airport, get in your own vehicle and leave, or you can have the services of taxis.
Thank you, Mr. Samuel. Someone was inquiring that if they live a minute from the medical facility where they have to take the COVID tests within that 24 hours quarantine period, if they have to drive themselves there, get one of the COVID prescribed taxis to take them there, or whatever the case is. 1 minute, well, I suggest the person could walk. Right. It still holds. So they have to get the prescribed taxi to take them to the medical facility. That's what?
Mr. Williams, they can contact the health authorities, and I'm certain they can be guided accordingly.
They will be guided accordingly. Okay. Because remind you have to pay for that taxi. Okay. This next question, can I get an update on competitive sports with reference to the new SR and O?
As it relates to competitive sports, the capacity of the venues, 75% capacity, and it's only open to vaccinated individuals. And we're encouraging those persons who play competitive sports for them to have a threshold of immunity among the teams of 70% at least before they can begin.
This is a follow-up question. I will ask it anyway, even though you just gave that explanation. But if all on a sports team are not vaccinated, can those who are not take a PCR test 3 days before their game in the competition? Wilkinson.
We continue to look for loopholes in the protocols and procedures. Now, no protocol put forward is perfect, but we have been guided by the science, and we've done well so far with the protocols and procedures that we've put in place. And so you know what they are. We have engaged the Football Association, we have engaged the Basketball Association, we have engaged the Netball Association, and we have discussed the protocols and procedures. We have gotten input from them, and we have given them the guidelines which they have agreed to abide by.
I may have another looking for loopholes for you, Dr. Wilkinson. If there is a requirement for events to have only fully vaccinated patrons, why is there still a capacity limit?
Because we are still in the middle of a pandemic, and yes, when you get vaccinated, you have significant protection, but there can still be breakthrough infections. And so by having the capacity limit is to allow persons to still be able to social distance such that they can decrease their risk of exposure if there is an asymptomatic carrier within that crowd. And so everything is about risk and the risk reduction. And the more persons who get vaccinated, the more we'll be able to increase the threshold. And we need to see how we have been moving. We had a situation where we had no mass events, to caps on the numbers, to capped on the percentage capacity, and now we're up to a 70% capacity. And if you look at it, it's not very often we have a venue like the park or the athletic stadium packed to capacity. Sometimes under normal circumstances, you don't have 50, 60% persons in there. And so let's try and work within the rules. Let's try and get forward and get vaccinated. The higher threshold we get to, the more we can see the percentage capacity increase.
Right. 100% capacity at any event means it's all sold out. But even when it's all sold out, all the tickets are sold, you still don't get all the persons coming to the event, even though all the tickets are sold. Thank you very much for your questions. That brings us to the end of that segment. I want to thank Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Laws, our National Chair of the COVID Task Force, Mr. Abdius Samuel, and Superintendent Cromwell Henry, all for answering your questions and for making any sort of clarification that you needed. I want to recognize and to thank the Honorable Wendy Phipps. She is here as usual, co-chair of the National Disaster Mitigation Council. Thank you, Minister Phipps. And Ophelia Blanchard for her hard work. She does a lot of the work behind the scenes, especially with respect to IT. We thank Mrs. Christmas Jacobs for her valuable service of sign language to a very special group in our society. And we thank ZIZ, Mr. AJ at the controls, and of course we thank Lijon James, who is doing a lot of the media work now here at NEMA, since NEMA has acquired the state-of-the-art studio. And that is to be admired. Thank you all for listening to us today, to our COVID-19 briefing. Next week we will be back with another briefing. Until then, I am Les Roy Williams. Take care.
There had it, folks, another edition of the COVID-19 briefing here on WINNFM 98.9. Up next, we got the WINNFM News and Sports package.